Is it going? Did we do it?
Okay, yes,
Cool.
we did it. Okay, I'm not going to do the spiel again. Tiny Sylvester here with Bioshock. It was really
No,
cool.
you definitely do have to do the spiel again.
Okay.
It has
All
to
right.
be on the record, man.
All right. Fair enough.
Just give us a truncated version.
Sorry, I still have the sound on Twitch. Okay, Tiny Sylvester. He cut his teeth working for Bioshock games, particularly Bioshock Infinite, from what I understand. Although I think he worked on other ones too. He was a level designer. As we all know, those games are considered immersive sim subgenres, which is kind of like an RPG, but you're allowed to make your own story in different ways, like Deus Ex, right? So Tynan Sylvester moves on to write a book post Bioshock about how, which is now considered to be like the new game development Bible, like not a like high concept Bible, not like meat and potatoes coding. Um, and so then he moves on to make Rimworld, and this game is first of all, I think it's like the seventh highest rated game on Steam, um, or even higher. And it's, I mean, it's probably made him over $1 million. I wouldn't be surprised. Um, and the way that he went about building it was that there is no real story, and I'll show you so everybody can see it, right?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, cool. So when we click New Colony, we see Crash Landed, Lost Tribe, The Rich Explorer, and Naked Brutality, which Matt and I discussed this a little bit last week, but we kind of think of these as like inciting incidences in a narrative, right? Like Crash Landed,
Right.
like Lost in Space type. Lost Tribe is different. I haven't done any of the other ones other than Crash Landed yet, because a playthrough of this game is really long. Well, it doesn't have to be long.
You're just good. And you want to humble brag that you're good?
No, that's not it. It's more that you can set up parameters so that you can have a story begin and end in an hour or even 5 minutes if you really wanted to. It all just
Really?
depends on how it works, how you choose to set it up. Um, but yeah, so you have this little primer, this little fiction primer. The three of you crash land, or you wake from crypto sleep, sarcophagi, to the sound of sirens and ripping metal. You barely get to escape pods before the ship is torn apart. Sometime later, you land on this unknown Rimworld. You start with some supplies, and this is the thing that I wanted to note, and I'm not going to start one, but this is one of the important things I wanted to note is these are the three AI storytellers. So Cassandra Classic, Phoebe Chillax, and Randy Random. Randy Random is considered to be the best one. He tells the best stories. Um, because he provides just more interesting events to take place. Like Cassandra Classic is a very standard difficulty curve, so it starts off easy and gets harder and harder and harder the longer you play.
Okay.
But Randy Random, you could be invaded by like, you know, the Nazis of this Rimworld in the first 5 minutes. And then you set kind of like a general tone to the story, right? Like you want a really peaceful community builder story, or blood and dust, so you're going to be fighting a lot, or losing is fun, you get killed a lot, right? Because this game is permadeath. If people die, they die, and that's it. But yeah, so you select. I always choose adventure story just because I think it's like a nice even balance. And then you can either reload anytime or commitment.
Oh, and commitment just means there are no saves and reloads.
Yeah, no
You just
reloading from
you're
previous
always
saves.
moving forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then you have some seeds that you randomize. These generate the world, and then you can set the globe coverage. It's recommended to do 30% because the processor gets really heated up because it generates an entire planet. Um, so
Oh my god,
it's
watching this process and like him selecting a starting base was so cool.
yeah, right. So then you click generate, and I'm not going to do this all the way. I'm just going to go through the process of setting up because it's kind of setting up the story. Um, so we generated 30% of the Earth or of this planet, right? So most of it is water. But if you were to do 100%, it would be completely generated. Um, So then you have to come in and let's say it's recommended to do temperate forest because it has for beginners, because it has the widest range of resources, but you can do anywhere. You can start on the tippity top of the North Pole and you get this one little hexagon. I would not recommend starting there. You're not going to make it. But as you go down, you can find other things like tundra, boreal forest, temperate forest. And all of these are different factions, these symbols, the skull and they have various things. So like this faction, Whitaker, which was generated along with the planet. So this isn't like a constant thing. Their faction, Ted Bootum.
So it's an inhabited planet.
Yes.
Okay, I was that was not my expectation. Okay.
Yeah, it's inhabited by all kinds of stuff. So there's like native life, and then there's also like tribal people, and also other like crash survivors and other weird sinister stuff too.
So you could go. So you could go all out Andrew Jackson on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, it would be freaking hard to do that, but you probably could. Let's see. Can I? I can't. But yeah, so there's other stuff like that. So I tend to start where I can have my back to stuff, right? Like I can cut myself off from a couple different things. So like water is good.
Yeah, and last time we were kind of over and done with so quickly, but like having water as a resource, how like much of an impact does that make?
Well, water is actually not it's not a necessary resource. I don't know if they just build it into the lore somehow, but you don't have to get water. It's not like other survival games. I think they just found that it was too tedious. Like you already have to worry about so much food in general that like I think
so water is just part of food. It's just like a subset of food.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't see the game.
Yeah, it's my fault. I'm trying to move something real quick.
Oh, almost there.
Hey. Coolio. Okay, so now we're gonna click next, and this is where we go over the pawns, right? So, they have a bunch of different things about them. So this is Vanoy Van Zeno. He's a 23-year-old male, but he's 28 chronologically because of cryosleep.
Okay.
So his childhood was he was an industrial orphan, and his adulthood was he is a charity worker. Now, all of this all plays into how the story will play out for these characters.
Okay.
So,
and do you choose those, or do they just get randomly
generated?
Okay.
Yeah, randomly generated. He also has liver cirrhosis.
Oh.
He's addicted to alcohol, and go juice, which is like a kind of like a methamphetamine. And he also has a bite scar, which I'm not sure what that's about. He's a quick sleeper, so he doesn't need to sleep for very long. He's a fast walker, and he's iron-willed, but he is incapable of violence, which is a problem because you're gonna kill a lot of stuff.
Especially for a method.
Yeah, right. And then his skills kind of inform his day-to-day.
And does Zeno mean? Is that his last name, or is that okay?
Yeah, that's
that does not indicate that he's some kind of xenomorph. Okay.
Yeah, they were kind of weird names because we got Jeff Zeno or Van Zeno, and then we have Jeff
Evangelist.
Evangelist doesn't seem.
Oh no, those are their jobs.
He's an evangelist. Okay.
He's an evangelist, so he's very artistic, not very.
A charity worker, an evangelist, and an energy researcher.
Yeah,
sounds like a really boring joke.
What is a criminal surgeon?
A criminal surgeon. She has an artery blockage. And she was a pickpocket.
And left behind on the ship?
Yeah, these are the left behind on the ship.
So they're dead.
No, they actually, these are just the people that they know. So like if we go back to Van Charity Worker, his mom is Debbie Speedy Zeno.
Okay.
So we might see her. It's possible. But these people could show up later in the narrative.
Okay.
So for example, well, I'll tell that when I get there, but But so the other thing is they're randomly generated, but if you don't like them, like this person having a psychite addiction is a huge problem. And incapable of dumb labor is also a huge problem. So like I could just randomize the person, and now we have an apocalypse survivor as a child who became a corporate manager.
Nice.
And she's really good. She has an annoying voice though.
She's a pyromaniac.
Yeah, and that's not
Well, I
good.
like the fact that you're like, well, she has an annoying voice. Also, she
is a
pyromaniac.
So there's one note that I wanted to make, which is these are the graphics. Like these people, what they look like is what they'll look like in game. And at first I didn't like that, but as the more I thought about it, it kind of reminds me of like, you know, when an author doesn't really describe the main character a whole lot to kind of let you fill in the detail and make your own protagonist. That's kind of how I ended up looking at it, and I ended up liking.
Well, I have to say, when we first saw the graphics of the planet, I was off-put.
Right.
By the sort of, you know, cartoon quality, the real.
Right.
You know, like simplistic quality.
Right. Yeah, and it is very simplistic, but I think the reason why is because it focuses solely on, because there's so much information that's going through in this game that I think it pulls away from the fidelity in order for you to be able to focus and manage.
Yep.
So that's the thought that I have behind it. I'm not sure if it's accurate, but so we'll back out of that, and then we'll load the one that I did last week with Matt.
And I mean, so I like the story of this world already. You got a good amount of survivors, you found some ruins, you met your first band of traders, and you started building up the ruins to make a nicer sort of compound safe house.
Yeah, right. Yep. Yeah, so they crash landed. We crash landed somewhere over here. Yeah, those right there. And then I had them move down to start building this house. And that's what they're currently working on right now, because you don't directly control any character in Rimworld.
Okay.
You give them orders based on their skills. So like these two are particularly good at crafting and hauling, so that's their number one priority if that job ever comes up. So I provide a job as like the god, and then they do the job.
Okay.
But I have to make sure that they all will be 111 on firefight, patient, doctor, bed rest, basic, because otherwise they won't try and heal from wounds and stuff. I mean, they will, but sometimes you can finagle with it. Like I've had a woman who was bleeding out, but I needed to get some security barriers set up. So I was like, I have to remove that priority for you to fix your leg, because if you don't build this barrier, we're all dead. So you do stuff like that. So in this one we have Frankie, Lewis, and Four Eyes. And what you do is it's kind of it's a happiness management, but it's also a continual expansion simulator. So like you have to constantly keep them organized so that you're always expanding in efficient ways, right? Or non-efficient if you don't want it to be very efficient. But the detail that they go into is really interesting. So like disturbed sleep was as a result of people coming and going in the night. Like I think one of the people is a night owl, so he wakes up in the middle of the night and starts working. So that annoyed her, and this will play out eventually. This lowers relationships with other people, and they'll get into fights. They'll get into fist fights. They'll get into argument matches. She doesn't like that she ate without a table. She's sweaty. She slept on the ground, and she lives in a dull barrack. So that's what we're actually working on the kitchen right now, I think.
Food comes before happiness.
Food comes before happiness.
And
they can handle living in these sleep spots.
Yeah. And we met this wonderful band of traders.
Those are like beasts of burden? The things that look like they have saddles on them?
Yeah, so this is actually a trader group that came in.
Oh, okay.
That's led by Stork, who's a carver, I guess. part of the bear people. I don't know where that is, but
Hopefully, if they don't kill us, we'll find out.
if they're traders, they're usually pretty good. She's 29. She has no health problems. She's happy.
Wow.
And every single character will have this stuff. So like this random guy who came in the trading caravan named Trogo. He was a vengeful child, and now he's a digger.
His name is Trogo Dinosaur?
Trogo Dinosaur, yeah.
Best.
Yeah, the names are very interesting. Orange Bandubiga. Kanmike Leguia. Biva Zoguabe. She was a cave child. Now she's an archer. And if I wanted to, I mean, I can't do it because I'll just get murdered. But if I wanted to, I could do something called drafting, and that's down here, where you can draft them. This is the one time you can have direct control over them, and it's for purposes of martial law, where it's like you're being invaded, so you need to organize them to fight. But in drafting, you can actually instruct them to arrest people. So we could arrest Ralph Humpsbrock, who is incapable of intellectual, artistic, and hauling. He refuses to do anything. But he has a chemical interest.
Yeah.
And he's very good at growing, which is good. But yeah, so we could arrest these people, and we could either force them into slavery, and then we could sell the slaves, or we could have them join our clan, or we could release them, or we could kill them and eat them for food.
So just like the real world, then.
Just like the real world.
Those are indeed the choices that define our time.
Just like the Rimworld.
Oh.
Get it? So
4 Eyes is welding?
yeah. Yeah,
Good
because
for
it's
4 Eyes. That's a skill that's too little taught to our young people.
right. Yeah, she is a welder.
Went to trade school.
And she currently really likes Frankie. But she likes Lewis too, but she really likes Frankie. They might get married. Might happen.
Okay.
And it also keeps track of everything they've done. So like Lewis or 4 Eyes chatted about guilty pleasures with Frankie. Lewis joked about recreation with 4 Eyes. So they talk all day, and it changes their opinions of each other, especially when they start fighting.
Do you find it changes their attitudes in reasonable ways, or I mean in story-like ways? Like it pays off. It's not just random.
Yeah, I would say so. Like there's been so for example, I should I jump over to the other playthrough, Matt? Or should I
I mean, I think this is a good look of like how it gets started and where the story could go, and then just like contrast that with how absolutely bonkers your civilization is in comparison.
Yeah, totally. Because you have to do a lot of things. So like I'll point out a couple other things, then I'll move to my main playthrough where I have a lot of people and a lot of relationship back and forth and stuff. So this is, you have to, in order to kind of get organized in Rimworld, you have to set up various zones. So like this is a planting zone.
Okay.
That I've set up because there's fertility that you need to take into account. So like darker green is good fertility, lighter green's okay, yellow's bad. So there's fertility, so you got to grow food. There's dumping zones where you dump stuff. I was using these to dump corpses for a long time, so I just had like a big corpse pile outside my house.
Where are all the corpses coming from?
Oh, because you get raided all the time. You get raided by tribespeople who saw your escape pods crash land. And it's really intelligently done because like how it works is so like you'll get raided, and then if you don't kill all of them, then one will escape and go back to their tribe and say like, look, these people, they killed me, but they have all this shit at their place. Like they have like food, they have gear, they have guns, and then they'll come back with a bigger group, and they'll come back with a bigger group. And so like there's counterplay because you can go and invade them and take their shit, and it's crazy. But
it's really amazing how many like mechanical things are given.
Oh, it's crazy.
Like real world meaning, and
yeah,
it's so like functional, and that's what's surprising.
Yeah, and by setting up all of these systems, just letting the systems bang into each other is what creates the story. That's what I think is so crazy, is like, it's the right amount of systems chosen to interact with each other. Because like, so you have a beauty meter, right? And so like the house is very ugly because they just have piles of wood and food and various shit just hanging out in the house. And it's just really, there's also some vomit here.
So it's like the way Cleveland and I would live if Laura were not in charge of us.
Right.
Okay.
So part of the goal is to clean this up, because this will negatively affect their attitudes. Like,
and why is there vomit?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody just puked. I think it was because
they had all sickness from coming out of cryo.
That's right. They had cryo sickness.
It's only this world has only like 3 days.
Been on this planet?
Yeah, like 3 days.
3 days, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this group is like, we didn't start the one that I was showing you earlier. We went to another one that I started last week. But this one we got about 3 days. But the one I'm going to show you now, they've been there for like almost 3 years. So, yeah, about 3 years.
And they always get here by crash landing, or by like their ship blows up.
It depends on what you pick. So like, so when you do the new colony, you can do crash landed, you can do lost tribe, rich explorer, or naked brutality. And then there's the Steam Workshop where people make their own.
Okay.
But they're all different scenarios. And then they also came out with an expansion called Royalty, where the fleet that the colonists are a part of finally makes it to the Rimworld and lands. So then you can do the royal politics version of the game, which we're going to do soon. But now we're going to go to the Ninue, because they name themselves. So this is Clan de Ninue. Talking back to what you were talking about, Pinckney, as the fault with what's that, Walking Dead, where they don't name things, right?
Yeah.
These little computer pawns name shit. They name themselves, they name the clan, they name their...
Well, they've already got more interesting names than the people on Walking Dead.
Right.
They're all named things like Jeff and Bob and Terry and...
Right.
But it's so realistic, Pinckney. You can't argue with it.
I mean, what?
I'm Pinckney, and that's pretty fucking realistic from my point of view.
That's one thing about like Zombieland that was really good, is they're named where the places they came from.
Oh yeah.
The film Zombieland.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that it's, but I mean, think about what people are called in Lord of the Rings, right? I mean, everybody's got like 3 names, and every city has 3 names depending on, what aspect that city from.
Right.
Yeah. No, naming's a really, really big deal.
Super powerful. It's really powerful. And I really liked how they do it. If you bought a version of the game, your name actually goes into it too. So if I had bought that version, Dylan Davis could have been a randomized option. But yeah, so in this one we have Taffy, Wester, Simpson, Sparkles, Pig, Pusateri, Itamu, and Rakobo. So this is a much bigger colony, and I'm working to expand it more. I gotta go out.
Okay, and they've been here 3 years.
Yeah, they've been here 3 years. Yeah. So this is the compound. I've been building into this mountain. And thankfully, due to Wester, who, as you'll see, she was a medieval slave, but she's a colony settler. She's 91 chronologically, but she's 31. Right. She is a hopeless drug addict. Hopeless. But I have to have her. Like, if I don't have her, then the colony falls apart, because she's the only one that can build like really complex machinery, like the wind turbines and like rechargeable batteries. And I mean, without her, this whole structure would have totally failed.
This is already better than like 2/3 of those, the cheap sci-fi things that they're cranking out all the time.
I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is already more interesting than that.
Oh, and this is just one person. Like, even just their interrelationships are crazy. So like, So Wester, hopeless drug addict. Colony would literally die without her. Simpson was the only male that I've ever seen really in the game. Like he's the only male. He's the original three were Wester, Simpson, and Taffy. And Simpson married Taffy, but Wester was not happy about that because she also wanted to marry Simpson, but she got over it. She eventually got over it. Then Sparkles just literally wandered in out of nowhere. I don't even know where she came from. She just she was sick, and she just wandered into camp, and she was like, "I'm sick," and we took care of her, and now she's alive. Pig was a slave that I bought and then freed, which is why her name is Pig, because they named the slaves like denigrating names. And she's a math professor. And so she has become my primary research. The amount of discoveries that Pig has brought me, this slave that I bought, is unbelievable. Like, so Wester can build it, but without Pig, I never would have been able to research wind turbines this quickly. Right?
Yeah.
Pusateri is an elderly woman who was, I can't remember how she came in, but she was hurt. I remember that. And oh no, I saved her. That's right. She sent out a distress signal, and I went to her location, because that's the other thing, is you can move. So like, this is where I am right on the Orange Boulder Sea.
Right.
But
I mean, and it does a really good job of building like reasonable names.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Orange Boulder Sea. Like it's, you know, that's it's memorable.
Yeah. Right.
Like you will always remember that, you know, colony you built on the Orange Boulder Sea.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and like, you know, if I ever relocated, I would have the tale of relocating out to Verrera Island. Like, that's just a very believable thing. Pusateri was here. I remember that. She was dying. She was starving to death because she ran out of food, and she was by herself. And she's like a basket weaver or something. I don't know, but she's been a pretty good doctor.
This could be a Western town. This could be, you know, a town in, you know, in like some remote part of Judea.
Totally.
You know, I mean, that's what I love about it, is that the science fiction aspect is, in fact, trivial.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, because it's really just the story of a society.
Right.
And like how a society grows, and how you start with 3 people, and then you end up with 8 people, and then like the first generation dies, and you end up with the children of the first.
Right. Which does happen in this.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it does. Like, I was assuming that it has to happen, right? If people get married,
yeah,
they
can have kids.
One of the ways you're going to grow your population.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, like, so you also have quests, right? And a lot of them are randomly generated, but one that always is that you always have is Ship to the Stars, which is where you progress far enough into the technology tree that you can build a spaceship to leave the Rimworld and get back to the fleet, but it's optional. You don't have to do it, which I think is a really good thing, because they put it like 4 years out from when you crash land.
So does that end the game?
It does end the game if you do leave the planet.
Okay.
But if you don't, you can just stay.
So that's an end state of the game.
That is an end state.
So it's like either escape or death. Are there other ways that the game ends?
Death, escape, and then turning the game off, deciding that the story is done. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean that's see, because more and more I realize stories are better the more they resemble life, and I don't mean like boring middle class life, but the more that they have kind of recognizable, but you know, usually exaggerated or emphasized or made more interesting, but you know what I mean? Like there aren't false conditions for the story. Yeah. Yeah. And this just sounds like a story that or a story maker that starts out with very few false propositions.
Right.
At its beginning, right? Things that are just obviously false and you know, put there so the game works.
Right. Yeah, totally. No, and I think it's actually just really beautiful that the quest is to leave, but it's optional. Because to me, it's like, by the time you get to the point where you can make a spaceship to leave, you have a pretty kick-ass colony. And I can imagine those people going, why would we leave? Like, what would be the point of that? You know, we have everything we need. We have a giant cave room filled with wood. Um,
As one does, as every functional society does.
Naturally. And this is my giant walk-in refrigerator that I'm currently working to close off because I'm losing cold air like all the time and it's driving me crazy. But I need to close this section off because this is like our gun, our gun. These are shelves, our weapon racks, and
okay.
and various other things. I just recently got into gunsmithing with them, so I'm making some amazing weapons, which was all done by this woman who got her leg shot off by Taffy when she invaded with her clan, and she was the only survivor, and I arrested her and nursed her back to health, and now she moves super slow because she doesn't have a leg, and I have no way to make prosthetic limbs yet. I'm working on it. I'm getting there. But she's missing a leg, and it just turns out she's like a master gunsmith. Like she's just excellent at it because she made weapons for her tribe.
That's amazing. The story that like fuels the single discovery or the need for prosthetic limbs, right?
Right.
That is a legend behind it now.
It's crazy. Well, and like Sparkles, I don't know if you remember last week, Matt, but Sparkles, she's missing an arm, but she has a prosthetic replacement. Right. But she is
this is a good condition considering how often this comes up.
She's a body purist, which means she doesn't like the idea of having prosthetic limbs. So she hates the idea of having a prosthetic limb, but she has a prosthetic limb.
See, like when was the last time a character from an MFA program story was as interesting as, someone named Sparkles who has a who has a prosthetic limb, but who is a body purist and so hates her own limb.
She hates her own limb.
Right, and that's just incidental.
Yeah, I didn't even generate this.
Yeah. So, but imagine if MFA, if people's, secondary characters were that interesting.
Crazy.
Had a name like Sparkles, no known history, except that we know that they have a prosthetic arm and that they hate it.
Oh, and also, this is the other thing that I thought was really interesting about Sparkles is it turns out I didn't know this when I took her into my clan, but she's an amazing artist crafter, and so she's made these sculptures. Again. So she's made this sculpture which is plus 502 beauty to this area, and she also made this one too. But she produces these works of art, and then you can read about them. So like this one. This sculpture resembles Alyssa Sparkle's orchard sitting next to the Horseshoes pin. There's a Horseshoes pin up here where they play horseshoes because.
So it takes into account what you have in your colony.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And spins that into the narrative of the work of art.
Yeah. So like for example, if you have an artistic shooter, like somebody who's good with guns and they're artistic, you can click on their gun and they'll have engravings of like artistic sketches of battles that they've been in.
Yeah.
See, this is exactly what I was talking about.
I know.
Exactly right. And that's what is history and stories within the stories, right?
And when it's laid out in this game,
it's making up their own stories. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's when it's laid out in this game, right, and it's done successfully, it seems so obvious, right? But when you get into game design and you understand all these concessions that are made and how freaking hard all of this is, and you start to understand and empathize why creators drop these elements.
I understand why game developers do. I don't understand why writers would.
Yes.
Because I mean, this guy has made an engine that creates characters who are more interesting than characters deliberately created by people who deliberately believe themselves to be writers and to have the theory. They have the theory that they will live a life in narrative art.
Who will be anointed masters of the craft.
Right. And they will not have so absolutely, like this guy is clearly some kind of genius.
Right.
Yeah. At the same time, it's like, well, but how hard? It's not that hard to type out. This character's named Sparkles, and she has an arm that she regards with disdain. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's so yeah, yeah, absolutely. But the fact that games are starting to do this, it's just
Yeah.
like, so what are we gonna get from conventional literature, right?
Right.
What is some 25-year-old who is killing 3 years in an MFA program? What is that person gonna tell me that I would not get from this game?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
You know,
I
like
don't know.
it's the better is that person throwing up? What happened?
Which
It was
one?
Simpson.
Oh, so
Simpson.
he was cooking. He was cooking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's my primary cook. He has to, because nobody else can do it. Every time anybody else cooks, everybody gets food poisoning. Um, which is actually, that reminds me of something else. So something I learned recently, I have a butcher table in a separate room from the kitchen, and I can imagine that you already know why.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't want blood spraying everywhere. And
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so this game, I didn't realize this. The stove and the butcher table used to be right here before Pusateri was here, and I made her room just recently. I've been kind of expanding and rearranging their rooms as people have been coming in, because it's pretty hard to build into the mountain. But yeah, so the kitchen and the butcher table used to be right here, and people were getting sick all the time, and I had no idea why. All the time, and it was because the butcher table and the stove were too close together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
Well,
oh,
a lot of stuff flies around when you bring down a cleaver.
yeah,
You know, there's
Right.
a lot of you get bone shards in your food.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why Pussateri's cooking. I thought I told her to stop cooking because she's the reason why people keep getting sick.
But she just can't stop. She can't give it up.
Yeah. And Simpson needs to be the cook. He's the only one. I'm also running out of medicine, which is kind of a problem.
And so, are you kind of on your own, or are there other settlements anywhere that you have any contact with?
I'm pretty okay with a couple of different factions, but I don't know where they are. These ones hate me apparently. Brascu, yeah, I've traded with them a few times. I haven't traveled out to them. Oh, they like me. Oh yeah, North Ferrera. Yeah. So these factions hate the shit out of me. The Dark Rogues, Entler Covenant, and Red Banya.
Dark Rogues are really edgy. They sound like a bunch of teenagers
Yeah.
who hate their parents and listen to like Green Day in their rooms.
Yeah,
but primarily though, you're on your own.
Yeah, I'm on my own for the most part. Yeah, there'll be invasive wildlife and various things like that. The Dark Rogues are actually the ones who blew out this wall that I need to repair. Their bodies are buried here. And here's another graveyard, because I recently had a huge operation where I moved all the human skeletons from here all up to here, all the corpses, because I just had, like I said, I just had a big pile of corpses in a field. But then everybody came together and moved all the bodies up and buried them, so that was good. So yeah, they'll just go about their merry way. Thank God. A lot of my turrets, my security turrets, were destroyed in that attack, so Wester's getting to replacing those.
And question, do characters gain skills they're not already proficient in?
Yeah. So let's
Okay.
click on where is that? Yeah, okay, so the fire is like a potential counter.
Oh.
So like I think she started at like an 8.
Sure.
Colonist needs rescue. What happened?
Minor
Cobra has gotten
breakers.
food poisoning. Incompetent cook.
Oh no. Shit. Okay, well that's not.
Yeah,
That's
let's
not
see how we deal with the crisis.
Yeah. Let's see. Who's the doctor? Taffy is the doctor. Where's Taffy? Ooh, she's kind of far. I mean, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. So Taffy's on her way to save Rakobo. Man, she's like deathly ill. Whew. This was Rakobo's prison.
Hmm.
I forgot to talk about Itamu, the horrible sexist.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, and right, that's important because you do have 2 males in
yeah,
this.
I do have 2 men, yeah. That's
However,
right. Yeah, so Itamu was he's a pirate. He's like a space pirate, and I think his ship crashed or something because he just like he literally crashed like over here or something. Like I think this is like the dead animal where his pod crashed on. And so I rescued him because I was like, oh cool, free person. And Itamu, it turns out he is just like he just hates women. He just hates them. Because he hates Pig, he hates Alyssa, and he hates he hates Taffy because minus 25 because she's a woman. And they hate him too. But he really likes Wester because he thinks she's really attractive. But he hates her because she's a woman. So he's just like this crazy sexist dude that just came out of nowhere. He like dropped out of the sky, and nobody will date him. Nobody will date him. So I only have 1 man in the colony to carry on the lineage, which is driving me crazy. That's why I need more men, because I have a lot of women, but no men. And he's also not particularly good at anything. Like the only thing I wanted him for was to. Oh, there's a dead bison.
Yeah, he's the guy who's gonna sell them out.
Yeah.
He's gonna tell their enemies the way around the hot gates.
Right. Yeah, I've considered kicking him out a couple of times because he's also a pyromaniac. He started a fire. Oh, I have a raid.
So you could banish him.
Yeah, you can banish him. You can also arrest him and try and get him to play nice and stuff, but I haven't done it yet. Okay, so I'm being invaded, which is kind of a problem because I have a lot of people outside.
And your defenses aren't still rebuilt.
Do you have a way to draw them back in?
Yeah, I do. Rakobo is out of commission, so I can't really do anything about her, but I bet that they'll be coming this way.
Do you know who they are?
It did say they're right here. The Gray Mesa Union.
And is that different civilization you've encountered before or no?
I'm sure I have.
Sure.
Gray Mesa Union, they sound like Mormons.
Yeah. So the AI is kind of intelligent. They might try to actually get through this wall rather than go through here, but we'll see. Oh God, Sparkles, what are you doing?
She's too gung-ho.
So now we wait.
Oh, is he trying to literally like tunnel his way through to go around your traps?
Yeah. So the turrets are handling some of it right now.
Damn.
Okay, so he's gotten through one.
Oh, but there's another 2. That guy's just tunneling away.
Yeah.
Give up. Jesus.
Okay, now he's giving up. Get him. We need more men.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So you're gonna try to arrest this guy?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, are you gonna catch him?
Maybe.
Why is he so fast? Okay, there you go.
Asleep out there in the middle of the field.
These?
No, just up and to the left. There's somebody who's got a Z next to it.
The hell? Who's that? He's dead. I have no idea.
What is Anarchist? Is that his name?
That's his name.
I hope so. I hope that is his
For
name.
2 days, he's missing 55% of his body parts. He's frozen. He won't spoil, so you can eat him.
Misogynist and pretty. Fantastic.
So he's a 51-year-old anarchist rebel.
Huh.
His name is Mike Mudgett. Mike Anarchist Mudgett. So his name is an anarchist because his job is anarchist.
Gotcha.
He won't be. Well, he's dead, so it doesn't matter what he won't do. He's in the South. Okay, we might need to just like tag this dude and injure him.
But you see up straight north, okay, you see that thing that's sleeping? Okay, it's right now.
Oh, this.
Looks like a beast.
That's a grizzly bear.
No, to the right. It's probably the same kind of thing. Are there just animals sleeping in the?
This thing. This? Yeah, that's a boom rat.
Oh, okay, all right.
You shoot him there.
Sure.
Yeah, no, there will be various fauna. So like, here's a mare, another grizzly bear.
Okay.
And you hunt them basically. That's kind of their main function.
Cool. I didn't mean to interrupt the.
Oh no, you're good.
I didn't mean to interrupt the hunt for another sperm donor here.
Yeah, unfortunately we killed him.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't.
Was that? Oh, that was kangaroo. Okay.
Yeah, because he was gonna get away, so I decided to shoot him and like hopefully they'd hit his leg or something.
Yeah.
Didn't work though. So instead, we'll just get that. Sorry, they'll take care of the bodies on their own as soon as they're done eating.
I mean, that's a pretty dramatic conclusion to the day.
Yeah. No, that's a really good way to. That's a good way for us to wind it up today.
And so, how many days have these colonists been here? Do you have a tracker?
Let's see. History. They've been here for 167 days, which years go by pretty quick in this. I can't remember exactly how many, but they divide it like it's December, right? So it's December, January. So that means it's winter. So I think
are there weather patterns like in winter it's harder to grow stuff?
Yeah. So like
I don't. The guys who died out in the field are frozen.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay. So like I wouldn't even need to store food in my refrigerator, and I've also turned my coolers down because I don't need to. I don't need them working so hard during the winter. But yeah, it's cold outside. You can see it on the far right side. Outdoors, -4 Celsius. And there's 4 seasons. It depends on where you go though, because like if you're in the far north, then it's winter all the time and it's always cold. But temperate forest, you get all 4 seasons.
Good deal.
Yeah, that's Rimworld.
Rimworld 100% delivers on
that's
everything
fantastic.
it was saying.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, story generator is exactly right, but I think it's inspired that somebody from that world came up with that description, right?
Right.
But that's what he wanted this to be. It was not like a colony simulator or something like that, but that it it really is a story generator.
Yeah, it aims to do story, right? Which is why I think a lot of things like unnecessary tedium are missing from it. And it just focuses on the things that generate story. Like I've run out of food a couple of times, or like this statue depicts when Simpson froze to death, but we revived him.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like it only tracks the things that make you say that, you know what I mean? Like they make you say, wow, that's interesting that it tracked that, rather than like Dwarf Fortress, which literally tracks every single interaction that's ever happened to any of the dwarves, right?
It seems like in the like absolute simplest terms, this game does 2 things, and that is lead you to work and conflict.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like there's a natural flow to it where it's like you need more so that you can be safer and have more to produce more so that you can be safer and have more to produce more.
Yeah.
And that always bears out interesting problems, interesting narrative problems.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's like the best I've ever played. I think it's this and Total War are the 2 best narrative games I've ever played.
Have you played Darkest Dungeon?
Oh
Yeah,
my god,
I
yeah.
do like Darkest Dungeon, but there's not enough detail. That's my problem. Like it just
Sure.
That's fair.
it
That's
just
fair.
like I love that
They've-
Wester is a drug addict that
Yeah.
has a history of this and this, and like you can have drug addicts in Darkest Dungeon too, but they're gonna die. They're all gonna die.
I mean, everyone dies in Darkest Dungeon.
I know, and I don't like that. Like my characters need to live for a little longer, you know? Like that's
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the thing that I think this does a little better than Darkest Dungeon. But Darkest Dungeon is brilliant too. It's a good game. Anyway, so let's talk about the thing.
Yeah, the thing. So our game jam. We're starting a game
Yeah.
jam. Neophyte Studios is starting a game jam. It's gonna be through itch.io. Is there a page up and available yet, Dylan?
No, it's
Okay.
currently being written, and I'm now changing some stuff to more correctly reflect that it's like a university sponsored thing.
Yeah, and we'll set dates for it, but I think it'll definitely, guys, if this sounds right, correct me, or if it sounds wrong, correct me. I think it'll go up and be running before the end of January. Does that
Like
sound reasonable?
The jam might be up. I don't know when submission time is
Okay.
gonna go up because
For sure.
like this is something we need to talk about in general anyway. But like, how long do we want to give them? Also, do we want it to allow for pet projects, or do we want them to develop a game specifically for the jam? You know what I mean? Like,
I think we can do that in 2 weeks.
because you want it to sit for a while so people know that it's coming up. Like, you don't want it to be
Sure.
like the jam starts now. You know.
Sure.
Right.
Then I am horribly misguided.
So like, because there's a jam calendar
Oh, totally.
that the people on itch can go look at. Like that's how I found my game jams.
Gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
If we plan like a month out from now, or like a month and a half, like
Okay.
mid February or something, like that's the start date, and then they have a month to make the game and submit it,
Yeah.
and then we have 2 weeks, or like then there'll be like a 2 week or even 1 week voting period or something.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Great.
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, yeah, let's just try out what we think is best. And I mean, assuming it's not just a complete and utter crap fest and failure, and even if it is, we'll keep doing them.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
This is
do it.
iteration one. We'll do the best. We'll take our best shot at making it work out, and then we'll just revise according to what we figure out as we go on.
Absolutely.
And we could have for October we could have like horror games.
Yeah, totally. They
Absolutely.
can be themed.
Right. No, I think that's exactly right. Is let's sort of get our thing down, with it open, but then start thinking about themes. We'll just run it like a magazine.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Right?
Like
It's essentially just going to be a magazine of, narrative stories.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, and we'll winnow out however many, entries we get, and and the best ones will be the winners, and people will be able to play them like they would read stories in a magazine.
Right.
Except
and
with
also
less of a barrier.
yeah, less of a barrier because you don't have to buy the Black Warrior review. But the thing that I'm excited about, particularly with what we want to do, is we want to play the top 10 or whatever it ends up being, the top games that we decide on.
Yeah.
We're gonna play them all on stream, hopefully.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Because then we can actually critique them like we critique Disco, and we can critique them like we can and not like tear them apart or anything, but just talk about what they're
just
doing.
play them and talk about what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't. I mean, there's no, who in the world are we to like beat people up if they made,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like, I'm interested in seeing what people are making, and I'm interested in, like, not being quite such a gatekeepered,
Right.
thing. So,
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm really excited.
all right,
It's gonna be
all right.
so fun.
So yes, the first Southern Illinois University College of Liberal Arts Digital Humanities Laboratory game.
Keep it going. Keep it going.
A few more words. But yeah,
Well,
you can.
Everybody wants to get acknowledged, man.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing something through the university,
Yeah,
It's
right, you gotta
amazing
make
because
sure.
no other time do they want to get involved with what we're doing.
They don't wanna help.
they don't want to get involved in this anyway. This- yeah,
You
we'll
are
just
a
run
bear.
through-
I forget that sometimes.
But
Right.
if anybody's in chat, I don't even know. I haven't had Twitch open, but for people to go and look it up, you can. The itch page is up. It's just not the game jam. So go find us, Neophyte Studios, on itch. It's the same as Twitch. It's all the same. So just Neophyte Studios on Twitch. Follow that, then you'll see when all that stuff goes up. And then yeah. So that will be kind of the process by which we go through doing this.
Perfect.
But yeah,
Yeah.
tell your game developer friends.
All of
No
them.
writers though, only people who want to make fun things.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a writer who wants to make fun stuff, like the stuff we've been talking about today,
Yeah,
then
sure.
we're interested.
Yeah, right. Well, my dog's barking, so we're gonna end the stream now.
It must be
Good deal.
time.
Yeah.
Well,
Sparky knows.
Yes, he does.
goodbye to all until next
All right.
week.
See you next week.
Later.
Later.